Hello, welcome to Suit Up the podcast of heroes. I am your host and metaphorical haberdasher, Terrence Lehue. Today we are joined on the show by show friend Scott Hebert to talk about The Alter Ego Effect, a book by Todd Herman that we both enjoyed. And I apologize, but I have a slightly... You just missed an epic sneeze that I just cut out. I have a slightly runny nose, so occasionally you might hear a sniffle on my end of the recording today. But I hope you enjoy the episode regardless. So here's The Alter Ego Effect and Scott Hebert. Scott Hebert, welcome back to Suit Up the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I just see a comment. Today is International Coffee Day. And since Scott is our international guest, he is drinking coffee.
Yeah. I got that bean juice that makes me go fast. And I've had like 4 or 5 cups. I'm trying to get going.
You're 2 hours behind me, and somehow I'm more drowsy than you. So, hey, it is what it is.
I doubt that. We're going to make a good show today for sure.
Utterly amazing. That's why people tune in when they see our faces.
Yeah, they're like, oh no.
They're like, oh no, they're back at it again. So today you were invited on the show very specifically, not just because you're a good friend of the show, but because you also enjoyed a book that I thought would be fun to discuss. The Alter Ego Effect. The Power of Secret Identities to Transform Your Life by Todd Herman. Holding it up for the people that watch on the YouTubes. Also, I have a slightly runny nose, so guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You'll get to hear that.
Nice.
I know. I'm just do it all for the people.
Yeah, that's good.
So, Scott, let's see. We came across The Alter Ego Effect. I talked about in Best Books of the Year 2 years ago. I can't remember. Did you read it that year or did you read it the next year?
You recommended it. We do these book awards at the end of every year, or like book recommendations, what we read. And you did it 1 year, and then I thought it sounded interesting. I wasn't completely sold on it, but I was like, whatever, I'll just read it. Like, if I have a rule that if someone recommends something, or if I hear it 2 or 3 times, I'll just do it. You know what I mean? I'll just do it and I'll slog through it or whatever. And if I don't really like it, like, I'll give it more of a decent chance than something else. But I heard you recommend it, and I wasn't too sold on it. And then I read it the next year, and I would say pleasantly surprised by it. Not floored, but just it seemed, the alter ego effect sounds very silly to me.
Yeah.
And seems like you're being fake. And I think I was off put by that a little bit. But then once I got into it, it was much more grounded in reality and based on concrete actions than I had anticipated. And it wasn't so much foo-foo. Like, it seemed like it just seemed good. And I would say I was pleasantly surprised by it. So yeah, you read it the 1 year and then I read it the next year.
It's one of those books that basic premise for people who don't know, the basic premise of The Alter Ego Effect is Todd Herman is a sports performance coach, which I find fascinating because this is probably the only other book except Range by David Epstein that is written by someone in the sports world that I'm like, oh, wow, I love the book. But his basic premise for this book is that using alter egos, you can overcome certain limiting beliefs about who you are that stop you from getting to a higher level of success on whatever your field of play is.
Yeah.
And I just love the concept because I think to a certain degree, we all do this. This is like the fake it till you make it strategy put on steroids and given a very logical progression. And he doesn't advocate to be someone else. It's bring your best self to something and use this as a way of getting there.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put all that. It's I'm really off put by the fake it till you make it thing for whatever reason. I think I just value authenticity quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, whatever that means to someone, I feel like I can kind of sniff that out a little bit, and I really value that. So every time I hear like fake it till you make it, I'm off put by it for sure. And I think that's probably why I was off put by this whole book at first, a little bit initially. But like you said, it's very much for your field of play. And that's a concept from the book that I'll get you to describe in a bit. But he just advocates using it on your field of play and actually only using that alter ego in your field of play. And this is not something that you're all the time This is just for those moments when you're looking for peak performance in overcoming the hurdles that you need to overcome in your field of play.
Mm-hmm. So let's discuss a little bit what the field of play is. Because again, I think that this is a really great sports metaphor to a degree that I actually really jive with. So the basic concept of the field of play is it's whatever that arena, that moment, that place you need to be performing at your peak optimum. So let's say if you are a lawyer who specializes in negotiating, it's at that table. If you are a salesman, it's when you make the phone call. It's whatever that defined arena is that you are quote unquote competing in, that you are trying to be the best, the best, the best. I mean, he even gives the example of people that he works with that their thing is like equestrian, and that's their field of play.
Yeah.
So
there was one Army guy in the book that he didn't have any problems. He didn't have any problems at work in the military stuff, but he was having problems not being a military guy and not bringing that home with him. And so his field of play was actually being at home with his kids.
Mm-hmm. And being a dad instead of a Army officer.
Being a dad, put on his dad hat and doing that.
And the other thing I really did like, and we'll get into a little bit of what the field of play difference is, but he also defines the difference between the extraordinary world and the ordinary world, which being both of us, I'm going to say you more than me, a Tolkienite, and just the what's it called? The Joseph Campbell.
Yes.
Hero's journey. That's it. Being fans of the hero's journey, he kind of uses that model as the idea that your ordinary world is the one where you are being your trapped self, that you aren't able to succeed at the level that you are trying to. And he poses the difference is you use your alter ego to help become your heroic self. It's the part of you that is inspired and capable of taking on those higher challenges. And that's when you enter the extraordinary world. And I love how he defines that difference as it's where you are performing at that optimum level.
The whole concept of the alter ego is that this is the stories that we tell ourselves matter, whatever that story is. So if I'm trying to be a painter and it's that Scott doesn't have any time to paint because there's too much stuff going on, or I'm scared, let's just say I'm scared for whatever reason, right? I need something to help me get over that fear. Because if I keep telling myself that I'm scared to paint, it doesn't matter if I was scared to paint or if I wasn't. If I'm not painting because I think I'm scared, in a sense, it is true. But if I can somehow tell myself that I'm a brave individual who can overcome any fears and just show up at that canvas every day, and even if I have to tell myself that it's not actually Scott Hebert, but Scott the Painter Man that's doing it instead, like this fake alter ego, because Scott the Painter Man shows up. If you're going to be a painter, you have to show up and paint, right? Yeah.
And he uses the personal example that Todd Herman gives in the book is that when he was first starting in business, he thought he didn't seem confident and articulate when he was trying to close the sale. So he created Richard, which is his middle name. And he used that as his alter ego. Richard was never unconfident or unsure. Richard always knew how to ask for the final sale. And he would have a pair of glasses that he doesn't need to wear glasses, but they'd be basically clear lens frames he would wear to be Richard. And it was just a little totem to help remind him that this is who he is at the moment. It's kind of taking our natural storytelling magic that all of us are capable of. I mean, it's part of the reason we love costumes and kind of walking into that story.
Yeah. I just want to tag on. I just want to tag on a little bit because I thought that I kind of lost my train of thought before.
That's okay.
But I really did like how his writing was grounded in storytelling.
Yep.
Very much. And that's why I think the hero's journey part of it tags in there so well. And he pretty explicitly talks about the hero's journey into it as well. But there's clearly, like, it's not just sports. It's not just whatever. He's clearly understands story. And just the way the book is laid out, like, it's a good book to read.
It is.
Which is also storytelling, right? So there's just a lot of layers of things going on. But overall, I think that it was just like, I think that's another reason why I was kind of pleasantly surprised with it as well, was just like, it was not only the psychology of, not only the psychology of the alter ego effect, which seemed legitimate. Not only that there was actionable steps, but there also did seem to be he had a lot of knowledge about storytelling. And when it comes down to it, the alter ego effect is all about the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And giving you tools to tell yourself a different story so that you can be at your peak performance during those moments of impact.
Yeah. Okay. I love that term, moment of impact.
Yeah.
Like, my goodness, what a wonderful picture of it is the time where you're on the field of play and you need literally rubber meeting the road. This is your make or break. This is when you have to be throwing the ball, catching the ball, saying the right words, doing the thing that you are there to do. It is the crunch time. And I just love that as a concept because, so again, mode of impact, you're on the field of play. That's when, if you're going to break, you're going to break, or you're going to succeed, you're going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. The moment of impact is like, well, I mean, I think about it in fighting terms a lot because that's just what I do. But like if you're training to be a tennis champion or whatever, the whole game or your career or tournament, the whole thing can come down to a single moment. It's not necessarily so much like that in painting or in writing, where it's going to come down to
more forgiving long term.
Yes, but those places they're in different arenas. There's definitely times when those moments of impact are the most important part. So if you're choking at those all the time consistently, it doesn't matter how good you are in the practice room. It doesn't matter how long you can drive the ball in the driving range, right? It doesn't matter how many people you can beat in practice matches in tennis. Like, if you're not performing at that peak time, at that moment of impact, if you're not closing that sale when it's time to close that sale, that's kind of, in a sense, that's almost the only thing that matters. It's not, of course, but it's the most important thing because, it's the moment of impact.
So I would argue then creativity, though, for writing for me, painting for you, we still have our moments of impact. It's just our moments of impact are like more often and lower in like degree, because our moment of impact is showing up over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Where instead of it being one big bombastic moment that turns the game, for us, it's, can we consistently make little moments of impact?
Yes.
All the way through a process.
I agree. I agree for sure. Yeah. It's definitely not as high stakes of moments of impact, but just being like a creative person that has to be on the grind. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. Is that the correct? Like, it's hard to see that the little tiny, the 10 minutes that I show up to paint, or the 1 hour that I spend on a painting out of a 76-hour painting, it doesn't feel like it's making a difference. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's even intimidating, and I'm sure you'll get this too, but sometimes it's even intimidating. You're just like, oh my God, I have so much work to do on this. Like, I'm never going to finish this. You know what I mean? What's the point in even getting started? I can just watch something on YouTube.
Or scroll infinitely through social media.
Yep.
So actually that brings up a really good point, which is, what are your thoughts? There's a moment in the book where Todd says he was talking to an author about the enemy, and the author was like, oh yeah, enemy of resistance. Do you think he was talking to Stephen Pressfield? Because he doesn't name check him, but it definitely sounds like Stephen Pressfield.
I don't know, that the War of Art's so ubiquitous amongst
writers. You're right. Well, and creative people in general.
Yeah, creative people. I think that's just a common terminology that we can all. And the resistance is such a good word too, because it's just so all encompassing, which is, I think, is why it's a good book, because it's just like, oh, resistance, oh, like whatever. It works for everything, you know. So I don't know if that was necessarily Stephen Pressfield, but it was definitely someone who is, I think, read his books for sure.
So he talks. Excuse me. The coffee is working its magic. In the book, he talks about the enemy, because for every story there has to be a villain, and he does a pretty good job of articulating that the enemy to your moments of impact are those different things, whatever that thing is that's telling you can't do it, or all the reasons you shouldn't do it, all the things that are preventing you, that resistance from actually doing the thing, showing up to your field play and hitting your moment of impact. He gives in the story of, I think it was a tennis champion or would-be tennis champion, that it was like growing up in whatever small town of Baltic nation. It was the kids that she grew up with that would tell her, because you were a girl, you can't do XYZ.
Yeah. What do you think that your biggest challenge is in like writing?
It's showing up. It is the resistance. It's, am I going to, because writing's hard. Like, it actually I have to think through the story and then sit down and write the story. And if I can think of any excuse, like right now, I left my notebook for my next book on a trip, and I'll get my notebook back in a week. But there's a law of me that doesn't want to write because I don't have the notebook with my notes in it. So what's the point? Theoretically, I can come up with all that stuff, but I'm like, didn't I write everything that was really good in that notebook? And why don't I just wait till I get the notebook? Won't it be easier? And that's the lie I tell myself to prevent from actually sitting down and writing.
Nice.
What about you? What's the enemy for you in painting?
I think right now it's staying in the trenches. And by that, I mean, I'll get into something and I'll just want to be done with it. And I'm really good at showing up when I have time to show up for my stuff. I've got no problem sitting there for 10 hours. I've got no problem, like if the schedule allows, I have no problem sitting there for 10 hours or until I'm done my piece. But sometimes I think I need to be, well, I've been editing videos for these people and I'm just seeing how much more delicate and refined they are. And a lot of that comes with experience because they just are like, they just have more repetitions.
Yeah.
So they just get to the right answer faster instead of, I have to kind of like
negotiate it more.
Back and forth. But I need to stay in the trenches longer. I need to take stuff to a higher level of refinement. I need to make sure that when I want to quit, I need to go like just about twice as long. That's like my halfway part when I want to quit. I'm like, no, this is just like the beginning. Got to take us further. Got to make this eye better proportion. I know it's like there's something about it that's a little off. I got to figure out what that is, right? I got to make these values better. I got to do all this stuff because like that's the only way that I'm going to get to the level that I want to get to. So I don't necessarily have the trouble of showing up so much. It's for me, it's taking things to a higher level of refinement to where I want to get to.
Mm-hmm. Overcoming fatigue when it eventually sets in, if you can force your heart, nerve, and sinew. Yeah,
it's not the physical fatigue.
No, but it's you would like to move on to the next thing.
Yes. And
keep moving forward instead of holding that line just a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think the other thing is it's just like I have to, like the paintings that I'm making, the last couple paintings that I made are like really good. Like I would say I'm at like a strong intermediate level for like painting. Like I'm probably painting better than most people would paint at right now. But I still look at all my paintings, not that they have massive mistakes, but just like there's big things that I would change in them. You know what I mean? Or I was just like, oh, I would take the colors different here. I would do this. I would do this differently. And so if I want to get to that place, like I really think in my mind, I think that if I keep painting and I have time to paint over this next year, that I could get by this time next year that I could be noticeably better to someone. Like if I show them a painting that I make in 12 months, basically, that it'll be noticeably better. But for me to get there, I have to stay in the fucking painting when it's already really good and take it to that last stage. And so it's hard because it's like you've already been into this thing. Well, I mean, this is what I'm rationalizing, but it's like hard because I'm already been into this thing for so long. And then it's
you've
like,
already invested so much into it.
Yeah. And everybody else is also gonna, like when I show people my paintings now, they're like, oh, this is really good. And I'm just kind of thinking in my head, like, oh, wait till like next year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's hard not to like believe in the hype, I guess. If everybody says it's already
everyone
good,
says it's good, then you're good enough. Why get better?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. So it's like, but if that's such an intuitive, there's only a handful of people that can help me, that could give me real advice about getting to that next level and would push me further than I need to be. And I don't really have any of those people in real life. So it's like, it's just hard to navigate all that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when you were doing the Florence painting, which is hanging behind you. It looks fantastic.
Thanks.
That was you. I remember you saying, oh, I'm going to take only, like 2 days to do this or something like that, then didn't it become like a week?
Yeah,
if
it's like
not more?
76 hours. There's 76 hours of like, because I filmed myself doing it, so I know how much footage I have. I had like 76 hours of
literally
footage.
game tape.
So I probably had about 80 something. Yeah. And I will have that for all my paintings, which is like really cool. Like I know my other ones take 20, whatever, 26, 20, 30. So it's like kind of neat. But yeah, that's also what I mean, because I know I can get done smaller ones faster, or just be fucking happy with them. And I know people will tell me that they're good, but like if I want to get to that next level, I have to be like Scott the painter guy. I can't just be good enough guy, right? Yeah, that's what's up.
I mean, that's the hard part about being creative to a certain degree, is that really it's a question of how much are you it's hard. You want to become that artist level where you have achieved mastery, where you are the creme de la creme, the peak de peak. You've done the thing and become the best.
Yeah.
Problem is society and the marketplace does not always reward that until you are up there. Well, all the marketplace wants is you to churn more content. That's part of the reason I don't do that many episodes on the podcast, because at the end of the day, I'd rather have really good episodes and do a few rather than just put out shitty episodes every week.
Yeah, I have a decent job right now that I signed
Got
up.
The bug man.
Yeah, I signed up with them though to work part-time, essentially. Currently I'm working full-time just because of some shit happened at work, people quitting and stuff. But I have the option of being part-time there. So it was really nice because that pretty much takes away, I'm just living this low-cost lifestyle. So that pretty much takes away all my need to listen in a sense to what the market wants. Like I can just focus, like right now I'm just focused on getting like 10 really good works, like my best works out. And I got like 3 done, but like I'm just working on getting like 10 paintings done. And then I can move forward from there, you know?
One of the other concepts I want to talk about from this book is the enclothed cognition. He talks about totems and the idea of using an object to invoke what your alter ego is. But he also mentions the idea of enclothed cognition. He shares a study where they gave people lab coats, basically. And in one case, they said they were painter smocks. And in that case, everyone was more creative. They were showing higher levels of creativity in whatever the tests were. Then the other time they had them wearing the same thing, but called them lab coats, and they showed higher levels of logic-based intelligence.
Yeah, they told them they were doctors.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that, honestly, this show is based around the idea, to a certain degree, of that your appearance matters because it dictates how you think about yourself and how other people perceive you. Yeah. Scott is in his poncho and an amazing hat. I am wearing my suit and power tie. Do you use this idea of enclothed cognition in your own life?
So when I first read this book, I really wanted to make like an outfit to paint in. I thought it was going to be for working in. And so I thought it was going to be coveralls. And I have like this Wildman logo that I use for my podcast that I got made up. And I had it, I got like these big patches. They were like $60 or $70 each. I got 3 of them, but I got them custom embroidered. And then this was my plan. I was going to get black coveralls. Okay. And then I was going to get my name tag embroidered on it, like a little one that says Scott. And then I also got a black on black Canadian flag embroidered patch too.
Oh, cool.
That I was going to like put on my shoulders. That's Canada. And then and then I got a black on black Wildman patch that I was going to put on the back. And so I was going to have like this uniform. And then that didn't happen because I was painting inside, and coveralls are just like a pain in the butt to change in and out of if you're not like working outside. So it didn't really work out that well, but I still have the patches. And so I'm going to go to Thailand this winter, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to get those patches made into shirts.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to have some painter shirts when I come back. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because like I need something. I get paint all over myself, like not on purpose, but it just happens. Sometimes you just get shit on you. So that's more probably how I'm going to use that. But yes, I think I'm very attracted to that idea, especially if it's like a work from home thing. Like I just got to be comfortable. So as long as it's just like a shirt I can throw on over top, or like a sweater that I can throw on over top, like I'm happy with that. So yes, I think that was like one of my biggest things that was one of my biggest takeaways that I was like, oh, I could do that, where I'm like, this is like Scott the painter guy painting here. He's going to sit here and make the best paintings that he can do. He's not going to quit. And then I can change out of that and just be regular, let's quit everything guy.
Is there anything you took away from going through the book this time around versus the first time?
So I've read it like I sometimes when I listen to a book, the first time I listen to a book, I listen to it. The second time or third time, sometimes I'll put it on in the background if I'm like doing something else. So if I miss parts of it, it doesn't necessarily matter because I've already listened to it. I probably read this book. I probably put this book on in the background like 3 or 4 times. Or
wow.
Maybe, yeah. So because whatever, this was been like 2 years since we've had it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know why. I just, I do. Yeah, I don't know. It's not like my favorite book or anything, but I like it. Like I just like this book for whatever reason. I don't know if there was the thing I took out of this book actually this time was the alter ego X pills.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I forgot about that until you had sent me the picture because I hadn't gotten that far in the book.
Yeah, it was really funny. He says like if you basically if you're because sometimes you can't like change into like a work shirt or whatever, right? Because you're in your basketball jersey or whatever. But he says like you can just go get a bottle. You can get a box of Tic Tacs and just take the label off, and then you just call your alter ego X pills. And then when you're ready to like change into your thing, or you're ready to go to that sales meeting, and you need like that extra boost of courage, like that you're going to be this different person in a sales call. You're not going to be Jim. You're going to be like whatever, Tony the salesman, right?
Tony the salesman.
Yeah, you just take an alter ego X pill and you use that as like your totem to like the transition into like your thing, your field of play, your moment of impact, right? I thought that was actually I don't think I listened, like I don't think that sunk in the first couple of times, but I like that a lot more than like, yeah, I like that. I thought that was good actually. Like and it's very practical too, because like every gas station has Tic Tacs and you just rub off the thing and you just pretend like placebo is a real thing, you know what I mean? And it seems kind of silly or whatever, but yeah. What about you? Big takeaways?
I don't know if there was any super big takeaway this time through, other than I think it had more to do with I've just taken a quick look at my notes because I do those things occasionally. Honestly, the thing I actually took away was naming who your enemy is. And because it gives you that. So actually, this is what I took away from it, which is, as a writer, this is intuitive for me. Because it's all about coming up with a character to embody at a certain point. And when he describes building an alter ego, it's the same way I would build a character or a story. In fact, I would argue some of my earliest quote unquote alter egos were some of the first types of characters I tried making.
Oh, yeah.
So that was probably my biggest takeaway from the book. That and the 5 Bridges of Progress. It actually reminded me a little of James Clear.
Nice.
The question is, what are you going to stop? What are you going to start? What are you going to continue? What should you be doing less of or more of? And those 5 things determine where you want to go.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about this book?
I want to know if you have created yourself an alter ego, or if there have been any alter egos that you've used in the past, or what characters do you find that you're drawn to?
I think I've taken aspects of this. I don't think I've completely went all into like, this is my thing, because
you can cherry pick.
I just kind of feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like that I was the alter ego and the moment of impact thing is definitely good if you're having a specific problem. I don't necessarily feel like I was having a specific problem necessarily all the time. Like this staying in these painting thing, that's kind of like a more recent thing. Before that, I've just been kind of churning a little bit. So not so much explicitly I've been following the alter ego thing, but I've definitely taken step out of it. Like I said, the the costume.
Mhm.
He doesn't call it a costume, but I like the
Uniform.
costume thing. So like, I've been on the uniform thing for a while, trying to figure that out. And now I think that I've got that figured out. With my shirts, I'll get 2 shirts and something warmer, right? And then that should take me through next year with all my stuff. So I think that, as far as what I'm drawn to, I guess that's kind of a little bit personal to me, and like the sense of and that's what he says in the book, though, is that you don't need to tell people what who your alter ego is. You don't need to tell people what it is. I think that I'm probably very readable in who I admire. In the sense that, like, I like all the I call them like mad scientist-y type guys.
Yeah.
Right? But I like the guys that can kind of do a lot of things, like polymaths, right? I like the guys that
Adam
are
Savage.
tinkering. I like outdoor survival guys, right? I like artists, obviously. There's lots of painters that I admire. So I think there's aspects from different people that I admire, and then you try to
Well, and I think the thing that's important to take away from this is his point is, if you're really doing the alter ego effect correctly, it is, if you are constructing a genuine, like going full throttle on it, all of the different things, it should be just making you more of who you actually are, not that you are becoming someone else, because it's not supposed to be a dramatic difference from who you are. It's in your field of play, working on those things of being the better self.
Yes.
The thing that I found fascinating is, this is more of like in retrospect for me. As a kid, I wanted to be someone who was able to adapt to any situation, because I felt like a lot of times when I was younger, I got really stressed and annoyed when I'd be in different situations, when I couldn't control all the variables. I mean, honestly, that's what the nightmare of childhood is that you're dependent on all these huge, big people to not let you die. And so I gravitated towards people like Indiana Jones, James Bond, these adventurers that they couldn't control all of the circumstances they were in, but every time they were in a circumstance, they knew how to react to it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the adult version of me has imbibed that enough that now that's a part of my character.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I would have, like I said, I kind of thought the fake it till you make it thing was like fake before. I was trying to think of a different word than fake, but yeah, it really put me off because it was fake. But like, as I'm getting a little bit older, I'm seeing how that you have interests and they just like meld into who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
it's part of growth and maturity.
Now I'm in this poncho and this hat, and I look great. And
you look like full wizard Scott right now.
What's up? Yeah, it's funny. I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I was thinking that I was cold this morning, so I put on the hoodie or the poncho because it's just like something I can throw on. And then I had the hat, and I was like, well, I'm gonna throw on the hat. And then you're like, you look like a wizard. I was like, oh, all right, nice. Nice.
For those listening who don't know what Scott looks like right now because they aren't turning into the YouTubes, Scott looks a little like Radagast, that in the Hobbit, you know, the brown wizard that's got like bird poop hanging off the side of his face. Except Scott doesn't actually have bird crap on his face. You've got colors. You are the rainbow wizard, which is an entirely different thing. Wait, that's Harry Potter. Never mind.
That sounds weird.
Scott, any final thoughts on the alter ego?
No, I think that if you're a little bit off put it like I was, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. And I think that there's very actionable advice in it. I think that, I think there's actionable advice. I think it's a good story. I think if you're interested in storytelling, that you'll be able to see how that interplays with each other, the whole thing. I think it's worth a read or a listen to on Audible. And I'm looking forward to getting my uniform done and kind of implementing it a little more like explicitly into my own life.
Again, I think that you are 100% correct. This book has great things, whether you construct a full alter ego or not. It's full of, because I'm actually familiar with a lot of these techniques from NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. He basically takes a lot of those types of ideas and just makes them sound not weird and actually practical and usable. So I highly recommend the book. Also, he reads the book on Audible and actually does a great job. So hats off to Todd Herman. He's always welcome on the Suit Up podcast if he's listening now.
Yeah, with hats off.
Hats off. So, Scott, thank you for joining me to talk about the alter ego effect. Where can people discover the amazing wild madness of Scott Hebert?
Scott Hebert art on YouTube is pretty much what I'm posting. I've got one more video that I've been working on for like this whole year on my Wild Man Philosophy channel.
Someday we need to do a recap on the Marcus project.
Well, I will. Yeah, we can do it after I'm finished it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interview you in a little bit on my show just to catch up. So I'm sure we'll talk about it. But Scott Hebert art on YouTube. I haven't been posting anything. I've been working my ass off. Literally, the last like 3 paychecks that I've gotten have all been like the biggest paychecks that I've ever gotten. Between like my different stuff that's going on. So it's been like really good. It's just the type of businesses, or sorry, the type of year that I have right now is basically that I'm busy with other shit during summer, and then during my winter time I basically get off to do my same as you. Actually.
I was gonna say, hey, this sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, I'm copycatting that. That's so funny. I just realized that. But it's good though. It's good. So I've just been in my busy time, so I haven't had time to. I've had like literally like 3 painting days this whole month, which is also okay because then I get a break where I don't feel. I have a really. I'm just rambling, but I have a really tough time like not feeling guilty feeling guilty about not working on my stuff. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, but then also when you're like making yourself more financially stable for like the rest of the year to do all that stuff, then it doesn't. I don't feel like I'm wasting my time. So when I start posting shit again, it'll be on YouTube. Scott Hebert art. That's my stuff. And then I've got a podcast as well, Dispatches from a Wildman, which has lately just been updates about what's going on. I'm hoping to finish up this one video series, and then I'll figure out my life. I don't know what's going on.
Highly recommend Scott's YouTube channel and podcast. Occasionally he has amazing guests like this fantastic romance author that he happens to know. So highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. Scott, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Big thanks as always to Scott for joining us on the show. You can find Scott Hebert's work by checking the show notes or by just searching Scott Hebert on YouTube. You can also follow his podcast, Dispatches from a Wildman, at which I am occasionally a guest. Until next time, this has been Terrence Lehue and the Suit Up Podcast wishing you a very happy Suit Up Sunday.